What's going on, guys? Today I want to make a little bit of an analogy here. Um, Basically, this is the 80-20 rule, and I kind of want to explain it here the way I just thought of it. So, first off, I'm going to compare some seasonings, and then I'm going to see how I apply this in life for some things I do. So, when you think about seasonings, right? Typically, when you think seasonings, you're like, oh, salt and pepper. You know what I mean? Like that's the common seasonings you'll find anywhere. And then I go like, okay, so I have all these seasonings, right? So like you could do lemon pepper or this bourbon steak, right? Or this habanero or cowboy butter. And you know what I mean? What what differentiates these seasonings? Right? What differentiates them is these extra ingredients, like I don't know, butter flavor, or habanero, right? Or lemon pepper, right? That's the differentiating factor, or what I would say the remaining 20%. But if you want to get what 80% of any seasoning is, you have salt and pepper, right? That's 80% of what most seasonings are, if that makes any sense. So if you're like going for a seasoning as a whole, salt and pepper is about 80% of what these are for their 100%, if that makes any sense. And granted, salt and pepper is a lot cheaper than all of these, right? So when I think about this, it's like the 80-20 rule, or this is not a new concept. I first got it here on the 4-hour work week, right? It's Pareto's principle. That 80% or typically 20% of the work you do will get you, close to 80% of your results. And why I compare it to seasonings is because I think it's easy to visualize. This is your 20% work, that's 80% of the results, right? Your this is probably $2, and you get 80% of what a seasoning is. And here's your seasonings that are all dressed up, that fills the extra 20%, which is 80% more expensive, if that makes any sense. So, and how I've applied this to my personal life is school. Listen, I'm still a student, and I think school is actually super important. But I'm not completely sold on the importance of academics, if that makes any sense. Listen, school is a great place to grow, and I think the way I've used college is for personal growth and expanding my actual interests. Because a lot of people get into college and think that their major determines where they have to go. Or people think it's insane to study engineering and not be an engineer. I don't think it's that crazy. I really don't think it's that insane. Or people study philosophy and people are like, no, that's ridiculous. Listen, why I mentioned school is that you can apply this pretty similar principle. This is what I do with school. I apply the 80-20 rule, because if you're in an institution like a college, right, you're kind of there to graduate, right? If you're at a big university, look at all the people that are there, right? Most of these people graduate. You know what I mean? So we're all competing for the salt and pepper. Some people have a 4.0 GPA in whatever they're doing. Maybe they're going to, use this example. You need the right seasoning if you're going to create a specialty dish, right? You might not, salt and pepper might not fit it, right? If you really want to be a lawyer, you probably go to law school. You probably get the more expensive seasoning, the specialized seasoning. But if you're just graduating school and more focused on self-development and reading, like I'm telling you, you can get more than a college education from books. $3. This book is $3. And do you know how much info from stocks? Thousands and thousands of dollars worth of information from a dude that's worked with over 1,700 clients. How are you not going to learn from that? And so the point I'm trying to make is that the 80-20 rule can be applied to stuff like school, or because everyone graduates with the same degree, more or less, if that makes any sense. So then you have more energy to exert on other stuff, your personal interests that you gain through, I think, reading, self-reflection, and actual experience, right? Those are very important learning things. And so the comparison here is salt and pepper. This is 80% of what all seasonings are. Salt and pepper. Whereas these fill the extra 20%, get specific, but these are so much cheaper. So these are the better bang for your buck. These are more specified. But it's not always a bad idea to just do salt and pepper. You're telling me you've had a bad steak that just had salt and pepper. You get 80% of your seasoning there. You know what I mean? So that's the way I think about something like school. And it's just a great way to think about, I don't know, the seasonings. Like, do I really need all the bells and whistles? Or am I getting 80% of what or like, for example, say you buy a car. I don't have a car, but you could get 80% of what you need, which is transportation and, safety and maybe some speed. Whatever you need or think you need. You can typically get 80% of that for probably close to 20% of the price. You don't need to buy the newest car. You know what I mean? That's just another example. Like, you can get the substance of what you're looking for usually pretty much cheaper than you think if you're willing to look. You know what I mean? So like, if you down to your roots, you're like, I need a seasoning, you'd probably just go for salt and pepper. You know what I mean? So that's it. Just keep it simple. Keep your energy focused. And let's go.